Less than a week after signing day, Mark Rogers TV getting the Syracuse rundown from John Cassillo from Noon's Magician on SB Nation to talk again the Orange class that is ranked 57th by rivals with 20 commits and 15 three-star prospects. John, thanks so much for joining us. Let's dive right into the top of the class. So who are those handful of players that you feel pretty good about, that the fan base is a little bit excited about seeing possibly make a level of impact maybe this fall?
Sure. I mean, to be honest, there's a lot of positions of need. I think, Scott Schaefer, when he was coach, seemed to lose a lot of his classes on reaches. So I think in general, we were looking to fill a lot of spots. High on everybody's list, though, was probably Jaquwan Nelson. He was listed, depending on where you look, he's either an outside linebacker or defensive end. He was heavily recruited by Georgia toward the end. Luckily, on signing day, he stuck with Syracuse. I think he's a guy out of Fort Lauderdale. He's 6'4", 230. He's probably going to get himself into that like 240, like mid 240s to 250 range. This is a guy who's going to be a huge impact player for us. And I think, probably Tim Walton's another guy. He's also going to be a natural outside linebacker, and he's a guy who probably has the size right now to plug right in if we want to. I think in general, Syracuse is just going to have to see, and fans are going to have to be okay with seeing a lot of these defensive recruits, play as true freshmen, because we honestly don't have enough bodies right now.
Yeah, is there anybody else, John, in regards to looking down the list of 20 that maybe you've heard something about, that maybe somebody who was a little bit lightly regarded, but at the same time, based on some scouting reports, maybe some tape that you saw or others have seen, you're interested in possibly being a breakout guy?
Sure. To me, you know what, I do feel like someone like Carl Jones, depending on where you look, he's either an athlete, a cornerback, he play with some wide receiver. He's a guy who just has a ton of speed. And if we plug him in at defensive back, I think if he, shows an ability to really get the position right away, we could have, he's a two-star. We could have, a nice kind of diamond in the rough on our hands. I feel like a lot of these guys, we had so many 3-stars for the most part. I feel like a lot of these guys are pretty accurately rated. Devon Butler is another one. Who's going to come in at wide receiver, but he's never played that position before. But, the guy has 4.3 40 speed. And, if he shows an ability to catch the ball, we're going to have, a very good player on our hands as his career develops.
So, John, looking at what you lost transitioning from 2015 to 2017 and how this class is comprised, do you think those positional needs were met, and where would those be?
I think we had some big needs in the secondary. Last year's secondary was deplorable. We had some big needs on the line. Right now, we don't have a single defensive end who's taken a snap in college. So I think defensive end was something that we were honing in on. We got 3 of them. I think that's a good start, but I think we need more there. And at the defensive tackle spot, we really loaded up in the secondary, and I think we addressed that need pretty well. Because we had a smaller class of 20, Dino Babers kind of had to retool the whole thing on the fly when he came in December. So I think, we probably fell short a little bit at offensive tackle. We might have fallen short a little bit, on the defensive line, as mentioned. And then a quarterback, we only grabbed one guy, Rex Culpepper. So that only leaves us with 3 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster right now. With 2 walk-ons, at least one of whom could potentially challenge for some playing time, in Zach Mahoney.
John, looking at the recent status of the program, you mentioned Dino Babers coming in. This is obviously the best job that he's had, the most prominent job. Your thoughts about his hire, good selection, marginal selection, and also the state of the program as it stands right now?
Oh, you know what? I love it. I think that the state of the program right now is probably less than great. Part of that is geography, the move to the ACC, coaching change, the Greg Robinson era kind of still haunting us to this day. But Babers is a perfect hire for SU because of what he brings to the table in terms of offense. What's been puzzling since McNabb graduated is that we're not running a high-tempo, fast-paced offense. When you're inside, you have all the luxuries of running that offense, and other teams were abusing us. Those mid-2000s West Virginia teams absolutely ran roughshod over us, as did any other team running any semblance of spread. So for us to actually be able to plug in a spread offense. And even if it takes a couple of years, I think now that we see a clear plan, at least on offense, suddenly there's a lot more promise and a lot more optimism about the program than there was just a couple of months ago.
So Syracuse, again, rated 57th in the recruiting rankings nationally by Rivals, ESPN, 24/7, something in that range as well, considering there's about 66 to 68 Power 5 teams. That's about what you would expect from this program the way it stands currently. John Cassillo joining us from Noon's Magician on the SB Nation platform. John, it's always a pleasure to have you on. That we could track you down to break down Syracuse. Hopefully we can have you on sometime close to spring football.
Of course. Thanks, Mark.